Hey everyone, this is a special tutorial video for a couple of our research development friends, but I thought it would be a useful example for quite a few people, so I wanted to share it here. We're going to use Exaptive's Cognitive City Planner free visualization tool to turn some tabular data into a network diagram from which we can make useful observations. Before you try using your own data in the city planner, I strongly encourage you to run through it with our sample data the first time, so you can get acclimated to the different steps. So when we've done that, we click here to upload our own data. We must have the rights to use the data that we want to upload. Exaptive is not going to save the data, we don't want to be a data warehouse or anything. The only thing Exaptive is using your data for in the city planner is to generate the visualization that you'll be able to share with others at the end. So we're going to bring in this data set here. It's mock data about some fictitious faculty members working on made-up projects. I did use the names of some real funder organizations, but just for illustration. They are not really putting any money behind any of the silly projects in our spreadsheet. So in the tool, we'll see instructions for every step along the top of the page. Step 1 is to choose our nodes. It's the first of 6 steps. The nodes are the circles in the diagram that will represent the different things that we want represented in the diagram. So hopefully we'll recognize these bold words over here as the tag names from our spreadsheet, and these other words with the checkboxes are the header names for each of the columns in our tabs. So when we click on, let's see, the name of the faculty person, and I want their title and project and their campus, I want everything about the faculty, so I'm just going to tick all these boxes. Now some of these headers are the same across tabs. The city planner is great at using that information to cross-reference and build out a complex network. So I'm going to also bring in the campus there and things like project title. So now we've got some duplication in the start of our diagram, but we're going to clean that up in the next few steps. Step 2 is our chance to split nodes. This is really helpful if you have any delimiters in your spreadsheet. That's when you have multiple items in the same cell. Like if you were listing a project and all the team members on a project, and you separated the team members with commas in one cell of the spreadsheet, this is where you would track down the column that that data is in and choose a delimiter, and that would give each person in that cell their own node in the network. But we don't have delimiters in our spreadsheet, so we can go to the next step, which is the opportunity to join nodes. I think this is one of my favorite steps because sometimes the results are pretty dramatic. We have these checkboxes over here because the tool is recognizing that the project title in our faculty tab and the project title in our project tab are the same kinds of information. So we're going to join those nodes. And now we have no more redundancy of titles and the other data we joined. Then we can go next. And this is where we can rename our legend to make it easier to understand. So right now, the legend is naming elements based on what tab and column they were found in on our spreadsheet, but we can clean all this up. And I'm going to use a little editing magic so you don't have to sit through me doing a bunch of typing. And now it looks much easier to understand. Then we go to the next step, and this is where we can pick our connections. Maybe this is my favorite part. Anyway, these are the paths that we want to make visible in our network diagram. In this example, we want to know how everything is connected to the faculty. So I'm going to click all of these. And then I also want to know how the projects are connected to the campuses and to the funders. Okay, so right away we can see we've got some complexity going on here. Don't worry, this is not the final visualization. We still have a couple more steps. If we zoom in a little, it's a little messy because I've included all the project titles, but we can start seeing connections. So like Delmar and Beth both received NEH grants. And let's see if we pull this out a little bit more. So these are the projects connected to the main campus. A lot more connected there than to the satellite campus, which is, kind of expected. And here are the people connected to the satellite campus. So this is still a hairball, and we want to get this to a point where, it's a lot easier to use, and we're going to get there. We click Next, and now we can name our city. The name is going to show up in the URL, so if you plan on sharing it with anyone, use your best judgment, and I recommend keeping it simple. I'm going to call this Jill Faculty because it's just my test. It's just an example. So now we have our visual city that we've built based on that fake set of faculty data. And so what are some of the things that we could do here? We could filter by campus if we're wanting to facilitate some cross-campus interactions. We can see right away that biology is a department that spans projects and faculty at both campuses. Business spans both campuses. And there are many people who have received NEH funding at both campuses. There are assistant professors at both campuses and professors, which we would expect. And interesting observation here, the education projects are only at the main campus. And chemistry and engineering, those are all only at the main campus. Let's group by departments so we can focus in a bit. And let's get rid of the campus and the faculty title because they're either on the main campus or they're not. They're either an assistant professor or they're a professor. So, and you can toggle labels off down here. Now we see all the departments are highlighted, and we have a list of them down here showing what color they are. And if we want to look at the funders, we can see the university is doing a lot of internal grants. They have projects being funded in almost every department with internal grants. In fact, the education department is the only one that doesn't have a university-funded project going on. Otherwise, we can look to see which departments are getting some NSF funding. Not seeing any NSF funding in nursing in this example. We can tell it's nursing because it's pink. That's a randomly generated color. There's no significance to making nursing pink. There's no NSF funding in the business department in this example either, and we see business is orange in the legend. Let's look at NEH funding. That's a little less common. So it's not surprising it's only showing up in 3 of the 7 departments listed. And if we wanted to connect people who have received different kinds of funding based on the things they have in common, so they aren't surprised when you try to facilitate an introduction, we could look at Beth, who has received some NEH funding, and she is connected to computer science, which has connections to Clem, who has received NSF funding before. So if we wanted Beth to think about an NSF opportunity, we might want to introduce her to Clem so they could riff off their computer science connection, and Clem could give Beth insight on the NSF opportunity process, which can make Beth feel more empowered to go after bigger, more competitive grants. Let's group by funders. Now we see everyone who's working on an NEH grant, an NIH grant, NSF, internal grants. Let's toggle off the campus because maybe that's not important for the question we have in our head, which is, what kind of coverage are we getting from the different funders? And maybe we don't want to skew our observations based on people that we know at the university, so we can toggle off their names. And now we can focus on answering our question with just the nodes that matter, the funders, the departments, and the project titles. I hope that this has been a helpful example. If you have any questions or feedback, or want someone to walk through the City Planner with you and your data, just email us at cityplanner@exaptive.com. And a big thank you to everyone who has given us feedback so far. We definitely couldn't improve in a vacuum. So thank you for being candid with us.